Booyah.
Welcome to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the number 2 hockey podcast in all of New Zealand. This is episode 3 here on Monday, April 26th, and as always, we're coming to you live here on YouTube and on demand on your favorite podcast platform after a tough loss to the Ottawa Senators. My name is Parker Hallowell, you know me as ParkersPucks, and I'm joined by my co-host who's apparently running a marathon, Nikita Trampkin's number 1 fan, Canuck Clay Emo.
Hello, Parker. Nice to see you and hear you. Yes, I am Canuck Clay on Twitter and on YouTube. And we are number 2 in New Zealand. I wonder who could be better than us in New Zealand?
It is a podcast I've never heard of, and I'm assuming they had like 3 people listen to their show in New Zealand, so I guess that's where we lose. But we're ahead of Spittin' Chicklets, we're ahead of Puck Soup, yes. So, you know, our one listener has done us proud.
I love it. Which country are we going to next, man? Who are we going to dominate next?
Oh, we got some in Germany. I think we got to go sort of off the board. Let's go for like a South Africa or something. We need to. There can't be much competition.
And if we're not in the top 100 of South Africa, we should just quit after 3 episodes.
We're going to need one listener in South Africa, and we should be there. Right. Of course, this is meant to be a live interactive show. So if you guys want to be involved, you can, of course, leave questions, comments in the YouTube chat. You can also find all of our content by going to the little link tree in the description. You can find like our show links, our Twitters, YouTubes. Of course, they're also right down here below our faces. So you can also find us there and hit the like button if you haven't already. On the show tonight, we're going to talk a bit about that really fun Canucks and Senators game that happened today. But we're not gonna spend too much time on that because there wasn't much that went on. We'll talk about Elias Pettersson's injury, Demko's injury, Roussell's injury, all these injuries. The return of some players like Tyler Mott, some coaching staff stuff, some around the league stuff. So I don't know. Where do you want to lead off today, Clay?
Well, we can probably start with tonight's game since it's fresh, and then we can park it. And just before we press record, I actually said to you, Parker, I think you'd agree. I'm not upset, actually. This should be expected. Yeah. We've won 3 of 5 since we came back. We played our 5 games. Now we're looking at our first back-to-back. But yeah, as we talked about before we came on, they were running out of gas, and it really showed tonight.
Yeah, no, the energy level was clearly the issue. And it's not like Ottawa had a ton of energy either. It was really just 2 teams that looked tired and slow. And again, this isn't something that we're like angry or blaming the Canucks for, right? Like the circumstances where they went from basically, 3.5 weeks off to coming back. And then the thing is they went and beat Toronto twice and we're like, well, maybe there's a chance, but you're on the fact of, maybe it was adrenaline that they're running off of, right? Everyone's fired up to be back for the first game. So, they're starting to look a little slow. But Olio Levy scored a nice goal. I guess that's a plus.
Well, take a guess, Parker. If I had to pick between Olio Levy and Nikita Trampkin, who am I going to go with?
I think you're taking the big man. No, Olio Levy for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been saying, I really think, and I don't care who was drafted after. We know the narrative. Oh, yeah. 5th overall, 2016, and all these good players drafted after. I get it. I think he can be a solid second pairing D-man. He's never going to be a number 1 pairing a top pair, but he could be a second pairing. I actually like a thought of Hughes, Juolevi, Rathbone next year. I know that's really young. I know maybe that's a 3 or 4 years down the road, triplet down the side, but I like Juolevi's game. He's solid, he's smart, and he can get pucks to the net like Hamonic, unlike Schmidt and Edler.
Yeah, no, that's sort of a seeing eye shot. And that's one of those things that I even tweeted about this when it happened. It's like, look, at the beginning of the game, you could tell Högberg was a little shaky.
Yes.
Like he didn't look great. He clearly wasn't, he's not an excellent goalie. He had an .869 save percentage going into this game. And I was thinking like, just get shots on net, right? And especially those ones where he literally couldn't see it. I think Howrluck had a really good screen there. There was like 5 people just crowding the net. Yeah, shoot the puck. And if you can get it through, it doesn't have to be hard, right? If the goalie can't see it, it doesn't matter as long as you're placing it in a decent spot.
Totally. And there weren't a lot of clean saves, but I didn't even know that you're supposed to pronounce the G in his name. I've been calling him Hoberg for the past whatever. So Hogberg, I know it's a G. Okay. the one that Horvat gets through his armpit with 0.4 left in the second period. There are so many that they squeaked through or they weren't clean, but Ottawa, to their credit, did not let the Canucks get to the front of the net.
Yeah, bounces were. I mean, puck luck is the oldest excuse in the book. But it was a thing tonight, right? You had those two Höglander chances like 10 seconds apart on those 2-2-on-1s with Horvat, right? You had the first one.
Tell me about the Parker. I was driving home. Yeah, tell me about them.
Sure.
I haven't seen them yet.
So the first one, Höglander and Horvat come in 2-on-1. Höglander doesn't make the pass over because the guy, the defenseman sort of lies down the way. So Höglander shoots it and he rings it off the far post. Ottawa gets it out of the zone, and then I don't know what Ottawa was doing, but somehow they turned the puck over at center ice, and I look up again, I'm like, oh, it's another 2-on-1 with Horvat and Höglander. Horvat makes a really nice move on his man to the outside, so the one D-man, as Horvat was coming in, the D-man sort of pinched over to Horvat, so leaving Höglander wide open. Horvat made a nice little move around him, passed it over, and Höglander just, he had in the entire 6 feet of net, just staring him in the face. Looked like he may grip the stick too tight. Just sort of chipped it wide. So things like that, right? Either one of those go in the net, you're looking at a different game. There's a bunch of things where there's the one play that was sort of like an innocent shot from the side, and then it bounced and it hit an Ottawa player and almost went in. There were so many little things that almost went the Canucks' way, just didn't tonight.
And for both those 2-on-1s, Parker, and thank you for your vivid explanation. Was it Horvat on the left, Höglander on the right, both times?
No. First one was Höglander. First one was Höglander on the right, and he shot it far left post. And then the second one, I guess they switched at center ice, and it was Horvat on the right, and he passed it left to Höglander.
Same defenseman that had to defend it twice?
I don't remember.
I have to look it up.
It happened so fast. I was still writing my notes from the first 2-on-1, and then I just went the other way.
I'm impressed that you write notes, honestly. I watch your post games as well, and I'm impressed that you're writing notes diligently throughout the game. I just pull up 3 websites and hope I remember what I was talking about.
Yeah, no, my strategy, I usually have 5 things per period, or whatever, any goals or decent chances, I'll write a sentence about it, and then to sort of trigger my memory. I have terrible memory when it comes to things like that. The only reason I remember it is because I wrote it down. So that's fair. What we're talking about right now, it's because I remember typing it. So it's sort of that's where my memory comes from.
That makes sense. Yeah, you can't really pick out any stalwarts up front. Maybe we should spend a couple of minutes talking about. We have 5, or I know C Edits and others have been talking about. We have 5 or 6 of the same player of VC Boyd, Harlock.
Yeah. It's the classic, the Sea of Granlunds, as Bodge put it. I
think Mott's kind of elevates himself, and we can see the difference he makes when he's in the lineup, which is a good thing. But I don't know about any of these other guys. I know Highmore's the only one under contract with us, right, for another year. The other 3 are,
it's one of those. I thought so. I think VC today came out good in the first period, but it was weird. So the first period, he's out there, he's on the Miller Besser line, I think he was. He got some, he got elevated role. I mean McEwen was their last game, but so VC goes out and he gets probably 3 good possessions of the puck, right, where he makes a nice move around someone and then he fell over, he just slipped, and then he had another one and he just bobbled the puck and lost it, and he had another one where he sort of cut into the net on the backhand and he missed the net, and it was VC did everything right. He was doing everything right mentally and positionally, and then he just couldn't, once the puck was on his stick, it was just all bets were off. And then we saw his ice time just get slashed after that, right? So I thought he did things right, and then his miscues caused Travis Green to be hey, we can't have you out there just losing the puck when you're out here with guys like Miller and Besser. And then I think he saw 2 shifts in the third period.
Crazy. And maybe we're seeing why, Parker, that he's bounced around to 3 or 4 teams now after being highly touted out of college, right? It's really too bad. You'd hope that they're like lottery picks. You hope one of them will stick, and who knows if any of them will. And
I think it's a good strategy, right? If you can collect all these guys at no cap hit, basically, right? Because if you're under $1 million, you can just put them in the AHL and it doesn't count, right? I mean, basically, you're just worrying about contract limit at that point. And the owner's money, which, I don't care about the owner's money. I keep saying this. But if you're able to bring in, a bunch of guys that make no money, so Howard, VC, Boyd, Mott, that sort of whole crew there, and you get one of them that elevates up, it's worth it, right? And that's sort of what we saw with Tyler Mott, right? He got a couple chances, and he showed that he's a real, an important piece.
5 years later, he's still here, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things where you make the trade for a guy, in that case, Vanek, that everyone hates, but eventually you hit.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll have to see how that shakes out, not only over the last 13 games, but or whatever we have left, 14 games. And then, of course, the off season. And then we got to see what happens in the blue line. We got to see about a lot of things. And I know we're going to talk about not just the players, but the status of some of our coaches a little bit later tonight too.
Mm-hmm. So before the game, we are everyone's happy. Everyone's like, "Ooh, Canucks game tonight." And then we get the tweet, "Hey, Demko's hurt." Remember our third string goalie who hasn't played a game all year that we sent to Utica yesterday?
Yeah, where's he right now?
Wow, how inconvenient. Luckily it doesn't seem to be serious. So from what we've heard, lower body, day to day. The thing is, Canucks are back to back Wednesday, Thursday. Right. So now you're worrying, you're like, okay, can he be back for Thursday? Is Holtby going to have to play both, which I think would not be good for Holtby right now, considering he is playing well. You don't want to, run him into the ground with those minuscule playoff chances you do still have. But do you want Artur's Seelovs in today, or Seelvos as they put on his jersey, which I thought was hilarious.
It was on his jersey and on the
lineup and on the lineup card.
I thought my last name was hard. Yeah,
I was starting to think, I'm like, maybe everyone else just has his name wrong. Like, I was like, well, he would have noticed that they got the name wrong on his jersey, right? But yeah, besides the point, the Demko injury is worrying, based on the fact of how many day-to-day injuries have we seen that aren't day-to-day. That's what always scares me. And if it is lower body, did he take a puck to the foot or the ankle? Did he
pull a groin?
Did he tweak something? Is it like, could it, tweaked his knee, tweaked his groin, a hip, it could be anything. And those are things that scare me, because it's, they're things that are like, oh, it'll feel better in, 4 days. And then 4 days pass and you're like, it feels exactly the same.
Generally, if you're a goaltender, you want to have complete mobility in your lower body. Well, I guess your upper body too, but
everything.
Not the best news, not the best timing, exactly, given that DiPietro is now on his way to apparently finish off the season with a lot of games, which is a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you're right. Holtby is the one who beat the Maple Leafs twice too. So you kind of wanted him to play. I was thinking you play, especially if Demko wasn't hurt, you could play Demko on Wednesday and then save Holtby for Thursday, a team that he's beaten twice in the past week. But all bets are off now. We could go Holtby. We could go Holtby Seelovs or Seevols or Hollowell and Emo. I don't know what they're going to do.
I mean, I don't want to speak this into existence, but if Holtby were to tweak something, like we just saw with the Sens, right? The Sens had Murray, and then he got hurt, and then they had whoever their backup was, and he got hurt, and then they immediately you're out of goalies, right? Because you carry three, you have your two on your roster and one on the taxi squad, and with DiPietro gone, and Demko hurt, so DiPietro couldn't come back because he'd have to quarantine for a week. Right. So if Holtby were to, tweak something or can't go, then you have Seelovs and no one else. You would just be out of goalies, because you can't even bring in like an emergency backup, because they'd have to get into the quarantine protocol. So it's.
Have you played goalie at any level of any hockey?
When I was in H3, so I would have been 4, maybe 5. We did a thing in minor hockey where there weren't goalies. Everyone got to play goalie once over the course of the year. We tied 5-5. So
that's pretty good.
That was 20 years ago. So, I'm sure I still got it.
Okay, because I don't. I have two very quick goalie stories. One of them, my cousin Dusty, who I've talked about many times here. In fact, I'm going to be lobbying for him if Ian Clark doesn't come back. But my cousin Dusty, NHL goalie coach, he whenever he used to come over and play street hockey, I think he would take out his frustrations on me, because he would line up slappers from 10 feet away from me. And I don't think I was wearing any pads. I don't think that's very nice. He's 4 years older than me, and older cousin. So I guess he was the boss. So that was one story. The other one is on our roller hockey team. We had one game where our goalie was late, right? So no, our goalie didn't even show. So instead of forfeiting the game, in theory, technically, you're playing 5 skaters on 4, right? Oh, my Siri just went on. I don't know. When I said theory, it thought I said Siri. But so we went 5 skaters on 4, and they put the fattest, slowest guy, the furthest guy back, right? So I was like a quasi goalie. So anytime one of the other team members, opponents, would get around our D, I think they'd actually feel bad for me, Parker. Like they could wind up and take it, but they didn't. They would try and wrist one past my arm or whatever. Yeah. It was not the best showing, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, we've had that before too, where we've in ice hockey where we've just been like, all right, our goalie will be here to start the second period. We're 6 on 5, and we won that game. So we actually didn't get scored on. We were not against a good team.
Well, when that goalie showed up though, you should have told him just
you're good. It was only 1-0 though. We didn't want to risk it.
Okay, fair enough.
Also, Roussel also injured. What was the timeline on that? Was it 2 weeks? Or
2 weeks, like innocent looking play too, right? It was like Marner and Nylander that kind of backed into him, right?
Yeah, I think I pretty much missed it, I think.
Yeah, it's in the neutral zone. Totally innocent play. And Roussel, you never know, right? Because he likes to get his nose dirty. But yeah, it was and I don't even know if it was the knee that he had surgery on 2 years ago or not, but they were saying 2 weeks. So you're right. You never know what the timelines these guys give us on injuries, i.e. Pettersson. So
yeah. And again, anything joint related, I just don't trust. Like wrists, knees, those are scary.
I don't do joints myself either. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Again, I mean, Roussel in the lineup. If he was in the lineup, does that make a difference in this game? I don't think so, because he probably plays 6 minutes at the most. Tyler Mott returned the last couple of days. And you notice him right away. He had a couple really good shot blocks today that I noticed, and just like he works really hard, but he also has good stick work. Like we see him winning battles, and he's one of those guys that he just elevates everyone else he's on the ice with.
Yes, and not only at even strength are solidifying our bottom 6, but on the penalty kill. Right, the day he comes back on the Saturday game, kill off all 6 Ottawa power plays. That's no coincidence, considering we let in 2 out of 4 the game prior when he wasn't there. Yeah, no, he's so good. He's so good and underrated, obviously.
Yeah, I think the power play was or the penalty kill was dismal before he came back. It was something like they were running like 68% or something the last few games before he was back. So yeah, definitely a big difference maker there.
Yeah, underrated. He's kind of like the ParkersPucks of the Canucks. Like people starting to know about him, starting to get some notoriety, but we need more people knowing about this guy.
Well, thank you. Anything else that we wanted to hit on this game or injury related?
I'm good.
Okay, yeah. I literally in my video I was like it was just a boring game. Like there's only 53 shots total. Not a lot happened. Speaking of boring games, I watched while the Canucks game was like in a commercial break or intermission, I was watching the Habs and Flames game. That was awful hockey. Was it? So I saw a good tweet from Mr. Booth on Twitter, and it was like 20 minutes into the Habs Flames game, and that game started at 3:30. So it was so you could watch basically the whole first period before the Canucks game, and he made a great point. It was like watching these teams, the Canucks have a chance because they just both looked terrible. And then we saw the Canucks Sens game and I was like, oh, they look the same. Like it's still not good either.
But they even match scores, right? Yeah.
2-1. It is 3 teams, the Canucks, Flames, and Habs, just sort of floundering their way, tumbling to the finish line. And the Habs will probably win that turtle race. And Toronto will probably just wipe the floor with them, unless Tyler Toffoli is apparently one of the best scorers in the NHL now.
Yeah. Hey Matt, I've never asked you about that. Does that trade bother you? Not trade. Does the fact that we didn't resign him bother you, or do you kind of get it at the time and you're fine with it? And it just looks bad because he's got 25 goals.
I think he should have been re-signed for the money. Like if they could have paid the money that he got, then yes, they should have re-signed him. And which clearly they could have at that money, because he's like, I thought I was going to be in Vancouver for the rest of my career, right? Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, if it's the multitasking problem, where it's everything's day by day and everything is one thing at a time, and that shiny big defenseman over in Arizona that used to be so good and isn't anymore and is overpaid. It's just the like just having the blinders on Oliver Ekman-Larsson and just running out of time. Yeah, I mean,
it's funny you mentioned multitasking, Parker, because I picture like for a Windows user, the Alt tab, right? And you know that you have 4 or 5 things open. I don't think Benning got 4 or 5 things open. I think he just opens like one application.
He has one monitor. He has one phone. It's like in the old NHL games where like NHL's like I think like 10 to 14. You would have a certain number of phones based on how good of a GM you were. He has one phone, and he only so on trade deadline day, if you had 3 phones or 4 phones, you could make so many trades, and you get so many offers. But it's just running out of time.
And it's like cordless. Yes, it's not a cell phone even.
Yeah,
no, I shouldn't say that. It's not a cell phone.
But yeah, it's one of those things where now look, I saw some people on Twitter saying, well, Toffoli's scoring all these goals against the Canucks and the Flames, right? Which is kind of true. Yeah. But I saw a good tweet, and this was from Sam on Twitter, Sam Chang, and she said, if Toffoli had half of the points that he has this year, he would be 3rd on the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, it was a miss. It was a big miss, and let's move on from that. 25 goals though. 25 goals is crazy. What was next on our list? Do we want to talk about the off season, or do we want to go back in time?
Your choice.
Let's stick with the negatives. Let's go on to the coaching staff.
All right.
So coaching staff has been, I'm gonna go back to the off season, which I guess was like November, December. And I remember I would listen to 1040, and Rick Dollywell was on, and he was talking about how concerned he was that Travis Green didn't have a contract going into the season. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, they've got so much time. There's no reason to not re-sign him. They're going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And then the days keep ticking, and it is April 26th, and they are running out of time. Now, tell me if you've heard this before, but sometimes this Canucks management group runs out of time.
Oh,
this has happened before. So I don't know, like, it's what I personally am not super attached to Travis Green. I think he is a good coach, or maybe a fine coach. And I think there's a bunch of fine coaches out there. I think you could do worse. I think you could do better. If it is coming down to money though, then I've got a problem. If he's your guy and you can't pay him, or you're just not making him offers, then that's where I have a problem. Now, Pierre LeBrun put out, I think it was this morning, and quote, "My sense on Travis Green, I think there's an offer coming from the club. Will it be enough? He's earned a raise to be sure. I can't predict this one." So at least they're making an offer. Is it too late?
Good question. I think I'm a bit higher on Travis Green than you are, and you're fine. You were very respectful. You said he's good. He's fine. I like him a lot. I think that the management really, they might not have shown it yet, but I thought they really liked him. I think the players like him. They played hard for him. He showed a willingness to adapt and really be a strategist when it came to the bubble last August, and July and August. So all that being said, I agree. And I remember hearing those interviews with Dollywell too back in the fall. And you're like, yeah, we got so much time. And now we're sitting here at the end of April, which is crazy when you think about it. And then I'm not sure if it was you or someone said to me that his family doesn't even live here. They live in the States, like that he's here, but his wife and kid may be in the States. So there's a chance that maybe he is not super keen on staying here. But that's just kind of speculation.
Yeah.
You got to think he might feel a little bit, done wrong by, or whatever the term is, just that lack of respect. Maybe some of the players may have felt it last summer. I don't know, or after the season in October. It's tough. I like him. I would love to see him back, but I'd be very interested. I saw that Pierre LeBrun tweet, and at least if you want Travis Green back, it's a little bit more positive than what we've been thinking the last 2 weeks. I don't know. Yeah. And what do you offer him? Yeah.
I mean, my sort of concern is if I'm Travis Green and I haven't been given a contract offer until late April, my contract's up my contract's up in a month and a bit, right? There's one thing to, like, if it was last fall, job security is one thing, right? Basically, I have a year left on my contract, but I'm being offered a 3-4 year extension. That's really appealing to me because if something goes terribly wrong this season, I'm still secure, right?
Yeah.
But now there's, his contract's up in 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're him, why would you want to re-sign, right? Why not?
Great point.
Why not wait till July or when, I don't know when coaches' contracts expire, like mid-July or whatever. Yeah. But why not wait a couple months and see what other teams offer you, right? Like maybe because like we've heard, I heard
sure Buffalo will be looking for someone.
Well, I don't know if he wants to go there. I think he'd rather stay here. But Arizona, for example, they've said, there's been rumblings that I think Tockett's their coach, right, in Arizona.
Yeah.
There's been rumblings that he won't be there anymore next year. I think his contract's expiring. Or Columbus is likely going to need a new coach next year. I don't think Tortorella's going to get re-signed there. No. So there's going to be options, and there's going to be teams willing to pay for a coach who has a few years of experience, who has shown that he can lead a team and come back from adversity, right? We saw it coming back into the bubble last year where the Canucks probably overperformed. We saw it coming back from COVID this year where the Canucks came out like a cannon and beat the Leafs twice. I think he is well regarded around the league to the point where if I'm him, I'm waiting and seeing like, look, maybe the Canucks are offering me $2.5 million. Well, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll see if someone else is offering $3 in a couple months' time.
You make a really good point that the way he can treat himself as a free agent is much like we talk about players when it comes to July 1st. And we've never really had to talk about this as Canucks coaches because it was Alain Vigneault for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then the 1 year Tortorella experience, then Willie D for 3, and now it's been Travis Green for 3. But I agree with almost everything you said, except how much money is there truly going to be out there if, say, every team is indeed kind of suffering and watching their pennies, but like the Canucks are. So, but I hear what you're saying about making himself more marketable, and maybe almost he can kind of play the field now a little bit and see what's out there. That is a real risk. That's a really good point. It's something I did think about, and now I feel even worse than before. So thanks a lot.
And to sort of counter that point of teams might be sort of pinching their pennies, but to sort of go back to that Arizona example, right? We're going into a season where fans are going to be back in the stands, and playoff revenue, right? You get a playoff game that's like worth $1 million, right? If you're Arizona, who is currently 1 point out of the playoffs behind St. Louis, and you're thinking, well, maybe a better coach would earn us a couple extra points, and maybe that would push us into the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. If you can pay an extra $1 million for a shot at a playoff series where you're guaranteed at least 2 home games, and maybe you go on a run, and maybe you get 7 home games, right? And that's a lot of money in ownership's pockets. So I can see, any team that's sort of on the edge or something like that, it could just be a smart financial move to pay a little extra and get a coach that you think will actually help.
Good point. Hosting a home playoff game. I guess we have not experienced that since 2015. Right?
Yeah. The Calgary series.
Yeah.
Willie D.
We didn't get to host. Yeah. Okay. Well, you better ask another question before I get really sad now.
All right, let's move on.
I came in such a good mood, yeah.
Let's go into some good mood. 10 years ago today, April 26, 2011, Game 7.
You were what, like 7 years old?
I was 13. And Alex Burrows with a nice one to make it 1-0. Jonathan Toews gives every Canucks fan a panic attack with a couple minutes to go. Man, I vividly remember that intermission. Like that, the intermission to that overtime and the penalty kill and the just the stress that I felt. The Patrick Sharp shot that he should have scored on, that Luongo saved.
Get all of it. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
And then I like every time, like I hear both calls perfectly in my head. The Houston call, the Shorty call, both of them I can replay perfectly in my head. I watched them both again today, just chills every time. But that is that the biggest goal is that the most exciting goal in Canucks history? Or I guess the only comparable one is probably the Bure goal. So
and then you're right. And then maybe the stanchion goal in third place.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Shorty was slaying the dragon and Houston was a perfect day for an exorcism. Is that? Yeah. Okay. No, it's really cool to hear that perspective, Parker. And I was joking. I knew that you weren't 7, you're at least 13 years old. You're at least a teenager in high school.
Barely.
And if I may, I think even though we didn't talk about this, I think you were setting me up for this. I was blessed to be at that game. That was my first year as a season ticket holder, right? That 2010, 2011 season. Yeah. Oh, it was so good. What was crazy about that game, Parker, is Burrows was all over the place. He missed on a penalty shot. He was in the penalty box when in the power play that in overtime that Sharp almost scored. He was the one who gave the puck away that led to the Jonathan Taves tying goal. He was all over that game. Yeah. Some good, some bad, but then obviously it turns into amazing, the most amazing maybe moment in Canucks history. Yeah, that intermission, my buddy Mike and I sitting right next to each other, 17 minutes, didn't say a single word.
Yeah.
Did not say a single word for those 17 minutes. Not because we believe in jinx or superstition. I don't believe in that. But we were stunned.
Yeah.
We were stunned. And that was the series. We were up 3-0.
Yeah. It was the stress. It was okay. Well, they got us last year. They got us the year before. And then it was the after game 3 thinking, thank goodness, we're finally going to do it. It's 3-1, and then it's 3-2, and then it's 3-3. And then we're in the third period. It's late in the game. Canucks are up 1-0. And they do it again. It's like, no, this can't happen. Like, it can't. And it didn't. Thank goodness for that. Because that would have been, and I remember Halford and Bruff were talking to Kevin Bieksa about this, I think last week. And they asked him, they said, would that have been one of the biggest collapses in hockey history? And I think it might be, right? You're talking about a team that won the President's Trophy pretty handily. You're talking about a team that probably was the best team in the NHL that year, right? The Canucks were stacked, right? Like, probably like a top 3 goalie in the league. You have, 2 Art Ross winners. You have a Selke winner. You the list of accolades for that team was absurd. And to go up 3-0 and basically be like, all right, it's in the bag, and then to almost blow it, like that would have been tragic.
You're right. They lose that game. Vigneault's likely fired.
Yep.
The core is blown up, and who knows? Now, granted, after 2011, they got bounced in the first round in 2012 and 2013. So it's not like they had a lot of playoff success after that. But of course, they wouldn't have gone on that magical run. Yeah, Bieksa, obviously, he's a weekly guest with Halford Bruff this morning. I'm not sure if you caught it. He was talking about where a lot of players, a lot of fans are like, "Oh, I never got over that," or he says, no, that was the best time of my career. Yeah. That was the best group of guys. That was the best team I've ever been on. Sure, we fell short, and maybe he was minimizing it a little bit. But, I kind of like BX's attitude that way. I would like to think that's how I would react. Although, as you know, Kevin BX has blocked me on Twitter, but I don't, I'm over that now. But it was nice to hear that story today.
Yeah, no, that was a good story. And I think I heard during your stream that you missed the other story, but we don't have to get into that.
Yes. Okay.
the Ryan Stanton story. Okay, where do we want to go next? It is, we got 25 minutes here.
I saw Petey. Let's talk about Petey. I saw that in our show notes too.
Yeah, so this was per Chris Johnston on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. I'm just sitting there innocently watching the intermission coverage or whatever. He's like, yeah, Pettersson's probably done for the year. But he prefaced it by saying Pettersson is making really good progress. And the Canucks are, I don't remember what the word he used was, but like not enthusiastic, but they were happy with the progress they were seeing. And then he followed up by saying, but he's probably not coming back this year. And it's like, okay, well, we went from an injury that was day to day, and we still haven't heard what it is, like officially, even though I think everyone knows it's the wrist. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, how did we get here? Right. But the other thing is, like I said, like joints and stuff like that, like your wrists, like those are things where you tweak them and you think, okay, well, that'll be better in a few days. And sometimes they just don't heal right.
Sure.
So I'm assuming that's what it is. And I like that they're not pushing him to come back, because they could look at it and say 20% chance at the playoffs. Like, look at a game like tonight. If Pettersson's in the lineup, we're probably talking about an entire different game, right? That game needed a Pettersson.
Yes.
But the fact that Canucks...
So did Thursday night's game too, yeah.
Most games the Canucks could use Pettersson. But we're talking about a team where you have a coach who's fighting for his job. You have a GM who's in hot water. Pettersson playing would be big for this team, but I don't know if it's either, he is bad enough that he just can't play, or if they're holding him out because they've seen what happens to a guy like Besser, where Besser gets injured and his wrist, like you would see his wrist wrapped up for like a year and a half. And then he had the back injury, which obviously didn't help. But now we see Besser back at 100%, and he's a whole different player, right? You saw the goal on Saturday. Was it Saturday? I lose track of my days. But that power play goal on Saturday, like that was vintage Brock Besser. Like it was for a 24-year-old, 25-year-old, vintage is kind of pushing it. But like it's one of those things where, if you're a goal scorer, your wrists are a little bit important.
No, absolutely. And with Pettersson, I kind of hinted at this at a couple of my streams, but with Pettersson, you're right. We know it's a wrist injury. And when it's taken this long, then I had heard from people who are in the know that it's likely serious ligaments. That would make sense. So then I think the question becomes, is it going to need surgery? And my understanding, and I'm not breaking anything or is not being an insider here, but my understanding is they're deciding if it's going to be, if it needs surgery or not. And if it doesn't, or even if it does, and they push it, is it worth playing through right now? So to me, that's what I see when I see pictures of him on the ice trying to work. When I hear different stories, he's skating, he's doing well, but he might not do it. To me, that tells me that he's deciding if he's going to play through this or not, or risk further injury. And it's not a question about his manhood or his intestinal fortitude. It's what makes sense at this juncture of his career and where the Canucks are right now.
Yeah. My thought process is if it does require surgery, I don't know what the timeline is. Maybe it's 3 months that he'd be out of commission for, right? And they're thinking, well, if we wait until the end of the regular season, then 3 months is still before the start of the next season, right? So we can push this off, and then if the Canucks are, a point out of the playoff race with a game to go, then all right, we want you for the playoffs, and it's worth you playing through. But otherwise, let's wait it out until then, and then you can get your surgery in the middle of May. It doesn't matter because you're gonna be good by August anyways, and we'll be fine for next season. That's kind of my guess going off of what you said.
Yeah. So I've asked you, have you been a goalie? Have you ever had a wrist injury? I haven't.
I have bad wrists. I can't do a push up with my palms flat even. Like they just hurt all the time.
I can't do a push up with my arm, so no.
Yeah, no, but it's not bad enough that like it wouldn't affect me playing hockey or anything.
Right.
They just hurt if I bend them either way. But they're still strong enough. It's just weird. But yeah,
okay, that's good.
But they don't heal.
Good.
Like this was from a year ago, and they're still they're just I'm aging. Yeah.
Yeah. It says the 23-year-old to the 46-year-old. Actually, I there's one other thing when we were talking about milestones and anniversaries, and I'm glad you brought it up. It didn't get a lot of play this year because maybe it's another year's past. But today is the 2-year anniversary of the passing of very popular media member Jason Botchford.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did. Yeah, I made sure to put that in there because I was in Mexico when that news came out, and that was a good way to hurt the second day of my vacation. But yeah, it was. I was a big fan of the Pravis and the Armies. That was appointment reading for me after every Canucks game, especially once it was the Armies. That was the reason I subscribed to The Athletic. I was like, sweet, this is content for, midnight every night after a Canucks game or 1 a.m. every night after a Canucks game. It's something to read. And it was always good because it was always, the first half was talking about the game and, people trying to get in the Armies and Pravis and posting cool and, just fun stuff from Twitter. But then the last half, it was usually like an actual interesting piece of journalism.
Totally.
And it was it was one of those things where, I mean, if you see this in like Twitter replies all the time, but it's like, man, what would Botchford be saying about this team right now? And man, like Highmore and Howerluck and VC and Boyd, like it's the Sea of Granlunds thing again, right? Like it would be very entertaining to see all that.
Yes, and I think obviously he left a void with his passing 2 years ago, and I'm not sure if anyone has tried to, because I don't think anyone could try to fill the void. But when you look at the Athletics now, are you still an Athletics subscriber, Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As I am. So you look at that, and I Thomas Drance does a good job. I think he is the closest writing style to Botch. Wyatt is just all over the place in a good way.
Yeah.
A lot of pop culture references that I don't understand, but he's very entertaining. And Harman's kind of a little more straight shooter. So it's a great variety there. But with I don't know if they've really filled that void, and maybe they've agreed that they don't have to or they don't need to. Mm-hmm. But I'd say of all three of them, Drance would be the closest that has the ability to write like Botch did and has the inside stories, maybe that Botch does, or at least has access to. Drance being the most connected of those three. So it's kind of fascinating. But you're right. A lot of people talk about him all the time. A lot of people still pay tribute to him, and a lot of things we say or that have become, pop culture legend folklore in Canucks world is because of him.
Absolutely.
Dicky Pete and everything. Yeah.
I remembered because I've been listening to Halford and Bruff since they got their own show, and he would be on every Wednesday, or they turned it into 2 days a week at one point, but he would be on for an hour once a week, and they called it the Power Hour. And it was the best thing on the radio at that time. And that was like, I was like, all right, no matter, I was like, oh, it's Wednesday. Yep. I'm listening to this while I'm working or whatever I'm doing. And it's his style isn't really fillable. Like it's one of those things where it's like, there's just like, he was so unique in his writing style and his energy and, his voice that, had such a big impact on this market and on the team. I remember when he passed and when they sort of announced the armies, is what they renamed it to. They said they're like, yeah, we're not like, we can't, this isn't a void we can fill, but it's a void we can try to, mend at least somewhat. And it's one of those things where it's not something, he's not really a replaceable voice, I would say.
Right. Well, you're right. I had the order backward. It went to the Athletics to the Armies, not the other way around, right? It's the Armies right now. Yeah. One last story about Botch really quickly is I didn't try hard. I wasn't angling or pining to get into the Provies back in the day or whatever it may be. But it's funny. I was the butt of the joke on 2 Patcast episodes with him and Jeff Patterson, and I loved it. He was so good to me. But yeah, they made fun of me once on the day that I met Elias Pettersson at the All-Star game, and another time they made fun of me when I went at J-Pat for asking a mean question to Louis Eriksson. So they had their fun with me on the air, but he would always reach out and say, it's all in good fun. I said, no, it's all good. Any publicity is good publicity. He was very, and we hear that a lot from aspiring or even just guys that aren't aspiring to be in the media, just having fun with this. He would always make time for people that would make time for him and that would ask genuine questions and want to get better. And for that, he's very well missed for sure.
Yeah, and I think Harm's a good example of that. Harman Dial, he was sort of Botch's prodigy, I guess, so to speak, right? Everyone would always say, like, if you were like trying to get into the writing field, and you ever DM'd Botch a question, he would always help, he would always answer, and that was sort of his thing. And it's something that you can't really replace.
Cool. And even someone like Wyatt the Stanchion, who is also very mentored and touched by Botch, organizing Botch's bench and little things like that. It speaks to how much people loved him for sure. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know about you. I'm surprised at how little play, maybe because it's the same day as and it's the 10 year of the Slaying the Dragon as opposed to the 8 or 9. I was surprised that didn't get more play in the local media today.
Yeah, that is true. I think, I guess it wasn't on the broadcast, which is sort of where it would have been gotten that play. Right. And it might have just been a thing that got missed, right? It's one of those things where, not everyone remembers those dates. I didn't remember the date. I forgot it was the same day as the Burrows goal. But it's one of those things you see it on Twitter and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't, like, I remember, like, yep, that wasn't in April. Like, I remember that at least. And it's, Also, yeah,
it's crazy. You're checking your phone in Mexico though.
Yeah, well, I just opened up Twitter and it was like just blowing up, and I was like, oh, like it was not the best day.
Yeah. Well, we hit our magic 10:45. Do you want to jump into the comment section now?
Sure. Let's send the request out. If you guys have any topics you guys want us to hit on, anything we haven't talked about yet around the NHL, anything like that, we will do so. But while we wait, just wanted to do a quick sort of chat around the NHL. I don't know if you watch anything other than the North Division, because I personally don't right now. The Honda West Division is a pretty interesting one, and you have three teams that have already clinched because they are so far and away higher than everyone else. Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota. And Minnesota's been a dark horse this year. A really solid team, especially with Caprasoff. But then you have this sort of brewing battle between St. Louis, who is, the Cup champion from a couple years back. And then you have Arizona coming out of nowhere, seemingly with no one on their roster other than Connor Garland. And they're up there just 1 point back, but St. Louis has 2 games in hand. So we've got, sort of a battle brewing there in the Honda West Division.
Yes. No, you're right. Minnesota, we knew Vegas, Colorado would be good. We didn't know Minnesota would be this good. It's very surprising. Still think St. Louis ends up taking Arizona out. They have a few games in hand, and they're basically even in the standings. But as we go through the divisions really quickly, I've always said it's not a perfect exercise, but there's like a big 3 in each division. So you just named Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota. Let's go to the Central, where we know the big 3 there are Carolina, Florida, and Tampa. But and there it's Nashville and Dallas battling out. Dallas really had a slow start because of COVID. What do you like? Who do you like of those 2 teams?
I don't know. I think Dallas is a better team than Nashville is, but again, they kind of struggled with COVID early on. I just also want to talk about Carolina. I remember going into the bubble last year because they were playing against the Rangers in the play-in. They looked so good. I don't know if the Rangers are just bad, but I picked Carolina to come out of the East last year after seeing them after seeing that performance. I'm not surprised to see them contending for the top of this division. But yeah, Nashville and Dallas, I don't really like either of them, to be honest with you. I like Dallas's goaltending a little bit more. I'm a big Hudobin fan. But I think they'll squeak that one out. They have 2 games in hand, 2 points difference. Like it's a toss up, but I'd lean Dallas.
And North, we don't have to talk. We know who's the big 3 supposedly in the North are Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and because we've talked about the other 4 teams. And then that leaves the East, where they have a big 4 actually: Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Islanders and Boston, all with winning points percentage over 600. That means you're a good team.
Yeah, it really does. And that division is just a slaughter fest. I mean, Pittsburgh is on a ridiculous run right now. Basically just coming out of nowhere. They were like 4th and 5th in the division. Now they're 1st by a point. I'm surprised to see the Rangers this high up. Like they're 4 points back of Boston. I mean, Boston has 2 games in hand, but they have a reasonable shot if Boston, stumbles a little bit. I mean, we've seen that Adam Fox on the Rangers is just turning it like a genuine Norris candidate, maybe the front runner right now. Especially I think if the Rangers get into the playoffs, Adam Fox runs away with the Norris. But yeah, I would love it if Boston fell out at the end here. But yeah, when you look at how stacked these 4 teams are, and then the Rangers able to close that gap on them potentially, it's definitely a battle we got there.
And we'll save our what was I going to say? Our plans, like not only for here on Canucks After Dark, but our own channels. I'm not sure if you've actually thought about, Parker, if the Canucks end up not making the playoffs, how are you going to fill all this time?
Yeah, that'll be
on your channel.
Oh man, we got to hope for a lot of trades. We got to hope for a lot of news. I think we'll start going back to the old film analysis, but start doing some retros. That's cool. Maybe like the Burrows goal or some things like that. I think that's sort of my plan.
Now on Monday night, Hurricanes After Dark.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll each bandwagon a team. That would be fun. That would be some good content. We can get some sort of maybe a little bracket going against each other and get at least some fun competition in.
We'll have to figure something out for sure.
All right. Have you?
All right,
If you,
no,
I
have not looked yet.
All right, let's take a quick look. This is a fun one from Justin here. I'm sorry if all the people whose questions I'm skipping. This is just the first one that caught my eye. McDavid versus Crosby at their prime. Who would you start a franchise with?
At their prime, I take Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat, but man, McDavid's...
Oh, he's so good.
I think McDavid is a better offensive player by a decent margin. I mean, we're looking at it this season, right? The guy has 80 points in like 40 something games, like that, or maybe 50 games, like high 40s. Yeah. Either way, he's on pace for 99 points over a 56 game season. That's ridiculous. But we see what Sidney Crosby has done, right? His resume. He is he's a great all-around player. Like he's the definition of a grinder, but he's so much better than everyone else that has that role. You look at
hit leadership, everything.
You got the cups. You've got the 2010 gold medal that he was a huge part of.
And it's such a fascinating question too, because they're obviously, while they're still playing in the league at the same time, their primes didn't match up. And you put Connor McDavid on that team that Crosby's played on, maybe he does just as well. But I don't know. I still take Crosby over McDavid just by a hair, but I do.
Yeah, I think Crosby's probably the better, and I think it's just too early for McDavid. If we see McDavid for the next 10 years putting up 130 points, then you know what? I'll probably change my tune.
Fair enough. I'll come back to you in 10 years when you're 33 years old.
Yes. Let's see what else we've got on our list here. Calder debate between Jason Robertson and Kirill Caprasoff.
Yeah, maybe it's because I have Caprasoff in my keeper pool, which is actually a great shrewd move by me. Yeah, but I just like what he's doing. I think he's dangerous every time he touches the puck. So I would lean towards Caprasoff.
Yeah, I do too. And the thing about you can have this sort of age argument till you're out of breath, but given the criteria we have, which is both of them are Calder eligible, and the only criteria is most outstanding rookie. Yeah, it's Caprasoff. Just like Robertson's great. I think he's only like 2 points back on Caprasoff. The goals to assist ratio is a lot different. Caprasoff's got a lot more goals. And you just look at how much Caprasoff has changed the Wild, right? He is just adding him. He is so electric. He's so exciting. And now the Wild are, securely, they've already clinched a playoff spot with every team in the division having 9 or 10 games left to play. Like that is a huge game changer. Now, Cam Talbot's also a big piece of that, but we're seeing, a real, this kid's going to be a stud. Like he is so skilled. He's so exciting to watch. He is they've been known as the Minnesota Mild forever, right? There's been no reason to watch Minnesota games. They've always been super boring, but now they have a player who is electric and exciting and fun. And I think that alone just puts him on another level.
But I'm just looking at this Jason Robertson kid. I had no clue he was so good. I'm just looking at his stats, maybe because I don't follow that division in Dallas. And he's half Filipino, so I'm surprised they didn't pick the half Asian guy. Actually, honestly, he's wow. I didn't know he was that good, man.
Yeah, no, he's doing really well, and I think he's definitely helping Dallas sort of hang on in that race with Nashville. Right? You think he's out of the lineup? Yeah. That's a lot of points you're taking off the board.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. Who asked that one? That's a good question.
Somebody did.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you, somebody.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should be reading the names as I do this. It was C Edits. So thank you for the question. I had another question. Thoughts on Cole Lind, and I already lost this one. So
I saw this. I know nothing about Discord. I've told you I don't understand Discord. I don't understand TikTok. I don't understand Snapchat. But whatever. But I did see in your Discord that you had a conversation with someone about maybe Cole Lind possibly getting a lineup today.
Yeah, so it came. This was Battle Mode Bainbridge, by the way, who brought up will they actually play Lind or not. So I kind of just extracting off of that. Yep. But it came out, or Canucks PR tweeted out that Cole Lind was on an emergency recall from the taxi squad, basically, right?
Okay.
So being on emergency recall doesn't take up one of your recall slots, all that good stuff. And my thought process was, well, why bother recalling him if he's not going to play, right? If you're just going to scratch tonight, then what's the difference between having him on the taxi squad or having him on the active roster? So my thought was, well, if they went through the paperwork of activating him, I don't know if it's a paycheck thing. Maybe if he's on the NHL roster, he gets NHL money instead of his AHL money from being on the taxi squad. Maybe that's it. Maybe they're just sort of rewarding him. That could be part of it. Or maybe there's some fine print I don't know about where they need to have X amount of players on the active roster and they needed one more, and that might have been their reasoning. I just thought, well, maybe if they're, going through the work of activating him to the active roster and off the taxi squad, then maybe we'd see him tonight. And at this point, why wouldn't you play him when you have guys like Jimmy Vesey playing 2 shifts in the third period? Like clearly you're only putting him out there to fill ice time. Howard played 10 minutes. Boyd played 10 minutes. Although Boyd's a center, so a little bit different. Virtanen played 12 minutes, although he had 5 minutes in the box. But okay, that would have taken 1 shift away from him. Why not? Why not see what you have? If especially since the hole that the Canucks are trying to fill right now is a top 6 winger, right? Yeah. We've seen them try. They tried Highmore last game in that top 6 spot. They tried. Who was it today?
McEwen.
They tried McEwen last game. They tried VC again today. If that's the hole you're trying to fill and you're looking for someone who can play some offense, give Cole Lind a look. That's his MO, right? That should be what you're trying to do.
And let's say we come back with PD, Miller, Besser, Horvat, Hoglander, and Pearson. Then Podkolzin's in there fighting Hoglander for that second right wing, which is fine. And then let's say you have Mott, so that's 8 for sure. You need a center. You need a 3-line center if Sutter's going. Cole Lind, let's say, so that's already 9. And then some combination of Highmore, Roussel, Beagle, McEwen, whoever on the bottom, Harluck, whoever comes back. I would love to see Lind and Podkolzin in the lineup. Then you're 2 more ELCs, Hoglander there too. So that you're paying basically $3 million a year for those 3 guys for the next 2 seasons. That's good. But you're right. We want to see Cole Lind get some action. And why not? He's got this. He's got the size. He's got the hands. A tantalizing, prospect that we haven't had a chance to see yet.
And is he going to be that much worse than a Jimmy Vesey or a Highmore or
he can't be.
Insert, but insert name here. Like, is it really is it gonna kill your team? Is it going to cost you a game? Probably not. If it's as likely to help you as it is to hurt you. And I mean, even if it doesn't help you in that game, it helps you know what you have in Cole Lind, right? He could come out and he might not score any goals, but you might be able to watch him and be like, oh, this guy can play at an NHL level. Or you can look at it and be like, this guy doesn't have it, right? Yeah. Whichever it is, it's useful information. And it's one of those things where knowing, it's one of those times where if it's not going to hurt you to know, you might as well try to figure it out.
Well said. Well said. Man, can't wait. But I don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah, hopefully
you want to do one more? Yeah.
Let's get one more in. This one's on you then. Okay. You got to find one.
Okay. Justin says, oh no, what he already no, who cares? No, Justin has that question yet. Who wins a cup first, Seattle or Vancouver?
It's this is a painful question to ask. I'm glad we're ending on this one. The thing is, if we just go off of statistics, Vancouver has won the Stanley Cup 0% of the time, and Seattle is an unknown number. Now that unknown number is likely going to be higher than 0. And you're talking about, I mean, do we see this management group leading the Canucks to a Stanley Cup? I personally don't. And let's say they're here for 3 more years. Well, that's edge Seattle. Seattle is getting, we don't know how they're going to compare to how Vegas did, but if they are anything comparable, then they will be leaps and bounds in the lead here. I think it's one of those things where it's as 50-50 as it gets. Because do you see either of these teams winning the cup in the next 4 years? Probably not, right? The odds are so low. Well, we don't know what's going to be going on 4 years from now, right? It's going to be both completely different teams. So I think these questions are always weird whenever you see them get pulled up on like TSN, where it's like, oh, we pulled this many people and this is who's going to break Canada's drought on the Stanley Cup. Well, I could have picked any team and given you a good reason for it, right? Sure. I could say, well, it's not going to be Toronto because I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup in the next 2 years because the odds are so low, just because, 1 in 16 if they make the playoffs, which, maybe 10% chance of winning the cup this year and the next year. And if they don't, then they have to rebuild eventually, right? And then they're at the bottom of the list. And it's just like it's your pick is as good as anyone's.
I like to think, Parker, that other GMs have learned from the Vegas experience 3 years ago. So I don't think they will allow Seattle to build their team as quickly as Vegas did. I don't think that Seattle is going to come out of the expansion draft and their entry draft with a core like Demko, Pettersson, Hughes, Horvat, and Besser. So maybe because I'm a homer, maybe because I'm not wearing a Seattle Kraken shirt, although Inferno thinks that I'm going to go to, I saw that comment. He thinks that I'm going to jump. When we were talking about the bandwagons, he thinks I'm going to jump to the Kraken, but we'll talk about that another time. I still, if I had to pick one, maybe I'm a homer. I still think Vancouver wins a cup before Seattle, but maybe I'm just being biased.
Now, counter what you said about how GMs are going to learn about just from Vegas. Remember the reception after that Vegas expansion draft?
Yeah.
Everyone thought that team was going to be useless. Everyone thought this team is this is a draft lottery team for the next 3 years. Right?
That's true.
And you look at their core, William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, like all
Riley
these
Smith.
all these guys who you had barely heard of. It's like, oh yeah, these are you put a bunch of third liners on a team and they show up and they all just pop off and they just go and Wild Bill scores 44 goals or whatever it was. Like it's one of those things where probably a fluke because of just you put a bunch of random guys together and they happen to gel really well and work really well as a team. But is it a replicatable fluke?
Can they do it again?
Can it be done again? That's if it's something that they can replicate, then they're gonna do their best, right? They're gonna. If I'm Seattle, I am studying everything that Vegas did, and I'm saying, okay, let's follow a similar formula and try to do it better. And
does that mean they're going to take Lucas Visa from a team?
Wow, that would be an impressive. Maybe they'll go maybe they'll take Ben Hutton from the Maple Leafs. That'll be their.
There you go.
That'll be their play. Anyways, anything else you wanted to chat about here?
No, I'm good. I just the CTV thing. I was able to share my fandom. I don't know if it's going to be on tomorrow, but if it is, I tweeted a sneak peek out. We'll see. And that interview just about being a Canucks fan during the crazy year, it might go out on CTV. Now I might share that through my channels, but that was a cool thing that happened today. But I'll share that as it comes out. Otherwise, no, I was looking forward to this all day. I wish we're talking after a Canucks win. This is our first, because the other game got postponed, right? So this is our first Monday night. Dang,
game day.
0 for 1.
0 for 1. We'll get them next time. Anyways. That's all we've got for this one. You can find all of our links and everything in the comments down below. If you missed any part of the show, it's on YouTube. It's recorded, so you can just rewind as we go here, or you can listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We're number 2 in New Zealand. Get us up those charts, folks. Just go and listen to it again because it was an excellent show, of course. You can find me on Twitter at ParkersPucks, on YouTube to search ParkersPucks. You can find Clay at Canuck Clay. Search Canuck Clay just search for our names. They'll show up. If you search Canucks and just scroll for a while, you'll probably find us as well. One of our videos.
A little bit down in the page, but that's okay.
A little bit down. But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back, of course, next Monday at 10 p.m. Make sure you're subscribed to the Canucks After Dark channel here so you get notified when we go live. Hit the like button. We're at 25. Get those up. As we sign off here, Clay, anything else you wanted to hit on?
No, thank you, Parker. This was a lot of fun as always. And I think Now the Canucks played 4 times in the week that since we last recorded, and they went 2 for 2. I mean, sorry, 2 and 2, 3 and 2 overall. So I just think, yeah, I'm not going to be too hard on them. I think what they're doing is very courageous, very admirable, very valiant, as the word that you like to use. And I think as long as we have that proper perspective, it'll help us as fans, as analysts, as vloggers navigate these last 4 weeks of the season. So we'll see what happens. Back to back, it's going to be big, and we're going to have a lot to talk about next week for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's it from us. We will see you guys around. Have a good one, and good night.